and welcome to Quarantine Crafts with Amy. So, it's gotten to that point where I've used up most of my craft supplies, but I still want to make crafts. I haven't really used up most of my craft supplies. I just used up most of my macrame yarn, and that's pretty much all I've been doing recently. But, it's not gonna stop me. We're gonna craft some more today. We're gonna do some DIYs. So what we have before us, hot glue gun, embroidery floss, felt, macrame yarn, the remnants, this green hoop thing that was in a flower pot. It was like this to hold the flowers up, these flowers. But I repotted them and I took this out and I said, we're not throwing away a perfectly good hoop, so we're gonna use this for something. Then I have my sewing kit. Okay, so I really would like to make something out of this hoop. Ooh, I could do like a macrame, like, dream catcher. I really love dream catchers. I think they're so cute. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut these off. I think they'll just cut off with scissors. And then we're gonna paint this and then we'll put it aside to dry while we craft something else. We're gonna save these because I never like to throw something away. You know, we'll find something to do with these. So since I am in an apartment, I'm going to use a box and a trash bag just to make sure that we don't get any of our spray paint going anywhere. I'm also gonna go ahead and open my window so that no fumes are destroying my home. I'd really love to do some embroidery on a piece of felt and then kind of stick it behind the little frame that we just spray painted and then have like dream catcher hangies coming down. I think they would look really cute. So like a little dream catcher but with embroidery in the middle. I was on Pinterest last night looking for some craft inspiration and I saw this really cute daisy embroidery situation and I just thought that would be adorable. Okay, so this is the color felt that I think we're going for. It's really pretty gray neutral color, but it's kind of heathered, so I love that. So we're gonna use this. Since I already spray painted the hoop, I shouldn't have done that. I should have measured it out first. I'm just gonna go over and kind of eyeball it and figure out how much we need. And I bought this on Amazon. I think it was like $8 or something for this entire embroidery floss pack, which I think is pretty good. So, okay, these are the colors that we're gonna use. I like the neutral and how calm it is. First things first, I'm gonna show you guys how to do some simple embroidery stitches if you don't know. Obviously you need a needle. I'm not gonna be using the entire thread. We're gonna be taking it down probably to 2 strands of the embroidery floss. That's what I normally do. I'm first gonna start with all the stems. So what we're gonna do, you're just gonna pull out some floss. You don't want too much because it'll get tangled. So then how we're gonna separate it, this is how I do it. It might be kind of gross, but I use my mouth and my hands. So there should be 6 strands making up this strand. You're gonna pull it so you're holding 2 in one hand and 4 in the other. And then I just separate them. This is honestly the only way I've found to do this that doesn't end in a giant tangled mess. These are the 4 strands. We're gonna use this later, so put this somewhere where you can find it. Thread your needle. You're gonna put a knot on the other side. This is all very basic embroidery stuff, but I'm just telling you just in case this is your first time trying to embroider something. So when you do the knot on the other side, I usually do 2 knots and you try to do them right on top of each other. Okay, now we're actually ready to start sewing. So the good thing about embroidery on felt is that you can literally just, if it looks bad, you can just take it out and start over and it won't hurt anything. First thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna do a basic stitch. I'm just gonna start at the bottom. So here's what we have so far. So how we're gonna get this is, I'm coming up from the bottom. We're gonna go down a little bit in front of the stitch we just made, down through. Then I'm gonna use my finger on the back to push it back up, not poking myself, but I'm just using it to guide the needle back up, right about there. So in the middle of the previous stitch, keeping the excess thread over here. I'm gonna pull it through. And then it creates this kind of woven look of all them slanting. So we're just gonna keep going down and then back up through the middle of the last stitch. And I'm kind of curving this stem because I didn't want it to just go straight up and down. So the fun thing about embroidery is you can kind of just do whatever you want, but I think that also intimidates people because it's scary to come up with your own pattern sometimes if you're not sure what you're doing. I would say don't be afraid to look on Pinterest and then totally copy someone's design at first when you're just learning how to do it. That way you have something to start with and you're not jumping off head first with literally no idea what you're doing. We have a really nice stem going, so I'm just gonna keep doing this and I'm gonna do a bunch of other stems, probably crossing over and just making all different lengths. and I'll come back when we're ready to start the actual flowers. I finished embroidering the stems and I think they look really cute. I decided to interweave them all together. So just how to go underneath, if you've already done one and you want to go underneath it, I just slipped the needle underneath the stitch and then just kept stitching through, and I think this makes it look really cool. Now we get to do the fun part, which is the actual petals. So I've done 2 of them just to figure out exactly how I wanted to do it, and I've decided basically just to do long straight stitches in different lengths, kind of overlapping, to create the petal texture that we're going for. Let's go ahead and do this little one on the side here. So what you're gonna do is come up in the felt right next to the stem, and I've been creating 6 petals on each, but you can do whatever number you want. Then you're gonna choose a distance for the first part of the petal, come back to where you started, and then you're gonna layer stitches just like that right next to each other. I'm making all the petals different lengths just to make it seem like wild daisies and really organic. I think that looks really cute. There would be 1 petal, and then you just start a new one and continue doing that for as many petals as you want. Okay, so on to the next step, which is the middle of the flowers, and this is turning out so good. What do you guys think? I decided to do this flower, which is like just the side of it like it was bent in half, and I think that looks really cute. Let's do the center of this flower and I will show you how I'm doing it. Okay, it's really simple. It's basically just like we were doing the petals. I'm just doing back and forth stitches of different sizes and kind of going back and forth a lot. And then you can kind of switch direction of how you're doing it to create the rounded texture of the center of a flower. It's okay if it looks messy. I think with the nature of this kind of craft, I think it's honestly cute when it looks a little scrappy and messy. I think it adds to the charm and it adds to the little homemade look of it. Now that we have our gorgeous embroidery finished, we're gonna work on the hoop. So I have the little hoop that we spray painted, and I'm glad we spray painted it black so that none of the weird green color will show through, but I want to cover it with some macrame yarn to make it a little cuter. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a simple knot all the way around. We're going to do a Larks head knot, just folded a loop right at the bottom. So we're gonna hold our hoop, we're gonna go from toward us, and we're gonna go over the hoop and then push the 2 strings through the loop. It looks like this. So we're gonna go from the back, so kind of the back of the lark's head. The front would be like this. We're gonna go from the back so that your short string is on your left. Then we're going to take the rest of the macrame yarn. We're going to put it through the hoop. We're gonna reach through the loop, pick up the yarn, and it's gonna create a knot. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna drop all of the macrame yarn through the hoop. We've created this loop, pull through, and we're going to be creating a pattern that looks like this. So we're gonna keep pulling it tight and just do this all the way around the hoop. After I finished knotting the border, I just knotted it together to secure it at the end, and now I'm gonna cut out the felt so that it is centered. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trace the outline of this with a pen and then cut it out. Okay, now we have glued the frame on, and I think it looks so cute and vintage. Now that we have the main part, I wanted to make some little dream catcher bits hanging down. I just cut a bunch of macrame strings about the length that I want them to hang down, and you can always trim them. We're just gonna start gluing them on the back. This is what I have so far. I think it looks so cute, and I'm really excited to hang it up on the wall. I think before I hang it up, I'm just going to trim down and unravel a bit of the bottoms to make them a little fluffier, and then it will be done. DIY that we're gonna do today are some coasters. So I have a bunch of scraps of macrame from my macrame pendant light DIY, and I wanted to make something out of them, but they're all a little bit short for making something out of actual macrame knots. So I thought we could try weaving a coaster and see how that turns out. So I cut a template out of cardboard for how big I want the coaster to be. And then I have all my scraps laid out here. So I'm gonna cut them with roughly 2 or 3 inches on each side and then lay them out, and we're going to start by knotting one side, all the pieces together so that we can weave, and then knot the other side. I've never done this before, so we're totally gonna be experimenting, but hopefully it'll turn out and look really cute. So I've created my own little makeshift loom here from packing tape on this chair. So you can do that and it's very helpful. So I just taped down the original string and then the top and the bottom of the vertical strings, and then I'm just threading in the horizontal ones and trying to push them up. When I get it to be about the shape of my template, I will start knotting these together. The last thing I need to do is just fluff out the edges and then cut them all the same length. Full time consuming, so we're gonna put on the bones. So the last DIY that we're gonna do today, you only need a piece of cardboard, hot glue gun, and string or macrame yarn or a yarn or whatever you have on hand. I really wanted to do this craft because I have a bunch of these pieces that are just too short to do anything with, really. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue them onto the piece of cardboard with the hot glue. And I think it will be really easy, and this is a way to get a really cute macrame-ish looking coaster without actually having to do any of the work of macrame. So I'm just gonna kind of experiment with the pieces, and I'm gonna lay them all the same way so that I can leave off a little bit so that I can frizz it out and create the fun fringe around the edge. So now that I've glued on all of the strings, I'm going to cut the fringe here and then fringe it out with the comb. Also, the lighting from my new macrame chandelier is like washing me out a little bit. It's very white. But it's also like a lot of, it's good lighting, but it's like your face is white, you know?